Coming up, we look at how the Department of Agriculture is acting on tribal input. A tribal leader in California takes stock of newly protected sacred land, and Land Back takes a new twist in an upcoming novel by Conor Kerr. Join us for those interviews, plus headlines on the ICT Newscast.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.
Support for the ICT Newscast with Aaliyah Chavez comes from the Arizona PBS studios in Phoenix at the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communications at Arizona State University.
Thank you for joining us. I am Aaliyah Chavez. A coalition of Apache nations and non-native allies are asking the U.S. Supreme Court to save its sacred land, Oak Flat. It's a story we've been following in Arizona, with the potential for the area to be destroyed by mining company Resolution Copper. Last week, a 29-judge appeals court ruled it wouldn't protect Oak Flat, which paves the way for an appeal to the nation's highest court. The mine has historically been opposed by 21 of Arizona's 22 tribal nations and by the National Congress of American Indians. Attorneys for the Apache stronghold expect to hear a decision on its appeal by August 12th. In Chicago, a Native American woman is suing the Blackhawks hockey team for sexual assault. Crow citizen Nina Sanders filed a lawsuit alleging breach of oral contract, fraud, sexual harassment, and the violation of the Gender Violence Act, among other allegations. Sanders worked for the team as a cultural advisor, but claims she was pushed out after being brought on to build relationships between the team and the local Native community. The organization provided a statement finding insufficient evidence for Sanders' claims, but emphasized its commitment to Native American communities. Sanders said her time employed with the Blackhawks left her feeling abused, traumatized, and used. In Hawaii, the U.S. government is finally taking responsibility for jet fuel that leaked into a drinking water system in 2021. According to a Navy investigation report, nearly 20,000 gallons leaked from a military fuel tank into Pearl Harbor's drinking water, which served over 93,000 people. 6,000 people were poisoned, and one plaintiff said even the dogs were getting sick from the water. The collaboration of state orders and water protectors resulted in the military draining the Red Hill tanks, and trials will begin soon for those who suffered. An Oregon Ravens football player has returned home to honor missing and murdered Indigenous relatives. Kola Shippentauer, who plays in the Women's National Football Conference, was in Milwaukee, Oregon in a match against the Seattle Majestics. The league includes non-binary individuals. The game featured a flag song and tribute to those who cannot speak for themselves. Around 20 young dancers from the Umatilla tribes participated. The game, earlier this month, coincided with the National Day of MMIP Awareness proclaimed by President Joe Biden. Officials from the U.S. Department of Agriculture say they have worked over the last 3 years to listen to tribal concerns and act on them. Now native ag producers are noticing. One told ICT, "I used to think Obama was good for natives, and then came Biden." Our Stewart Huntington has more.
When the Biden administration's Department of Agriculture held its first tribal consultations, things got a little, well, testy.
The first year of the administration, I believe that folks had really felt unheard before this administration came in, and folks came clamoring to be heard. There was a lot of heated discussions.
But at the recently concluded consultations this spring, the tone was quite different.
One of the main themes that I walked away with anyways was how much they had changed over the last 4 years, from the first year of the administration to this year.
The change in tone perhaps reflecting changes made on the ground.
USDA, the Biden administration has made great strides to engage with tribes and tribal producers across many facets of the government.
Federal regulations have hindered or sidelined tribes and native producers. USDA officials working to alter that have put in place new policies, such as requiring infrastructure projects like power grid construction on tribal lands get tribal consent, leveling the playing field for native producers in the grazing land permitting process, boosting tribal land use decision input by signing more than 180 tribal Forest Service co-stewardship agreements, and bringing indigenous meats like bison and caribou into the USDA grant and commodities programs.
They put out this program so that tribes have the ability to process their own buffalo and then distribute that to their membership. That's a huge win for tribes and for the tribal members who are receiving those products.
And more changes are coming.
We started with buffalo. We're moving into fish this year. We're launching USDA's Native Fish Initiative and hoping to do a better job in incorporating salmon and other seafood and fish into our work and our commitment in the conservation space there as well. And the second one is seeds. We've heard from Indian country the importance of maintaining indigenous seeds, and we are leaning into better partnership in propagating indigenous plants.
Nobody thinks the work is done.
You know, there's still a lot of skepticism.
Or that history can be ignored.
There's still a past that needs to be considered.
But progress is being noted just the same.
I tell you what, I thought Obama was good for natives. The Biden administration, I can't think of an administration that has actually truly listened and then said, all right, how do we do it? And, you know, those are big things.
Stewart Huntington, ICT News.
Hotter summers, longer pollen seasons, and record rainfalls. These changing patterns are putting our health and the health of those we love at risk. So, communities around the country are taking steps to prepare. State, local, and tribal health officials are using the Building Resilience Against Climate Effects framework developed by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, called BRACE for short. The 5-step process is used to develop strategies and programs that help communities prepare a coordinated community response to the health effects of a changing climate. Step 1 is identifying what climate effects are relevant locally, how those might lead to new or expanded health threats, and who is most at risk. The next step is to calculate expected impacts on the local population, and then rank the severity of each threat. This is called projecting the disease burden. What it does is it helps health officials tackle the worst risks first. Step 3 is to identify ways the community can intervene to prevent or reduce health effects. For example, health officials who are expecting more high heat days might consider if it would be more effective to open community cooling centers or to collaborate on housing and development plans to protect vulnerable residents. Then in step 4, health officials work with other community sectors to develop and implement their plan. For example, health officials may work with city planners to reduce the impact of urban heat islands, or with broadcast meteorologists to alert people to prepare for extreme weather. Step 5 is evaluation. Health officials assess the success of their adaptation plans and gather lessons learned to apply for future activities. These 5 steps in the BRACE framework are designed to be flexible and responsive to local needs. Any community, whether urban, suburban, rural, or tribal, can use BRACE to prepare for the local health impacts of a changing climate. To learn more, visit cdc.gov/climate and health.
We head now to Northern California to the Yocha Dehe Wintun Nation. President Biden recently used the Antiquities Act to expand the nearby Berryessa Snow Mountain National Monument. Stewart Huntington caught up with the tribe's chairman to learn more about the new protections for the land his nation holds sacred.
The expanded monument includes the sacred Malak Luyuk Ridge, and also returns to it its indigenous name. Malak Luyuk is Patwin for Condor Ridge. I spoke with Tribal Chairman Anthony Roberts about the new protections.
Hekunmi Bosai, Nanu Yet Anthony, Chu Yocha Dehe Cell. And so that's hello, how are you doing? My name is Anthony, and I'm from Yocha Dehe.
Sir, welcome to our show.
Thank you for having me.
The Biden administration recently expanded the national monument in your territory, sir. Was that important?
Absolutely, extremely important. Very excited and grateful to the Biden administration for taking that opportunity, taking the time, and designating that land.
Have you guys been working with federal officials for a while to get them to take this action?
Yes, we have been working with many different organizations, federal, local, state, tribal, and so very excited to be at this point, to have the land, Walker Ridge, Condor Ridge, and now known as Molokloyok, designated.
And have you had a chance to be out there yourself, sir?
Been out there many times throughout the years, but since the designation and the name change, I have not had the opportunity, unfortunately. Looking forward to doing so soon, though.
But you've been out there, so this is alive for you.
It sure is, very much so. At this point in time, just again excited, hoping to continue to work with the BLM and other organizations to come up with a co-management agreement. It's in the works at this point in time. We're hoping in the coming weeks we can have a completed agreement, and so we've been working hand in hand with the BLM and as I said, tribes in the area. The other Putwin tribes, the Molokloyok range, and so hopefully, as I said, not too far from now, in the very near future, we'll have that co-management agreement complete.
Nobody's wanting some grass to grow under this arrangement.
Well, I think the discussion and conversations have been taking place for some time, and so again, I think that could be a little ambitious on my part, but as us, kind of pushing this process forward and looking to work, as I said, with many different organizations, and whether that be federal, state, tribal, we're hoping that we can get this off the ground sooner than later. We're always striving to make partnerships and relationships with the federal government, and we're just grateful and appreciative that the Biden administration stepped up. The proclamation and the discussion took place with the Obama administration, and that's where it started. And just grateful that the Biden administration picked it up and was able to take it across the finish line.
That's great. Is there anything else you'd like to add, sir?
Yeah, I think this really isn't Yocha's first attempt to protect the resources in the area. We've had a long-standing relationship with organizations within our ancestral territory, which start at the base of Molokloyok and the hills there, all the way down to the waters of the San Pablo Bay, and east to the Sacramento River. So we've worked with Solano Land Trust to put to designate some area in Solano County. So we're excited about that process. We've worked with Vallejo in the past to protect some resources in that area. It is an urban area, but that is our ancestral territory, and the Putwin people have been protecting resources in that area for thousands of years. It's extremely important to us as a people. When those resources are gone, they're gone forever.
It's important for everybody, for all of humanity, sir.
Absolutely. I thank you. I appreciate that, and I agree 100%.
Congratulations. More success to you, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me. Truly appreciate the time.
So I wanted to check in to see how everything was going with your pregnancy too.
Your food choices affect you, it affects your baby, and it affects your family. It's important to have a balanced diet with foods from all of the different food groups: carbohydrates, water, fats, protein, vitamins, and minerals, all great things for baby. it's going to be 17.5 teaspoons of sugar in 1 can of iced tea.
I'm gonna back off on the Arizona tea for some time.
I really love and enjoy the program. It was an easy connection for us when I first met her. It was just like I could relate. She was welcoming. It made me feel comfortable.
Everybody has different beliefs. What I like about Family Spirit is that it takes that into consideration, honoring their beliefs and their background. For different cultures,
he babbles all the time, and like he'll point to banana and say, "You want banana?" So that's kind of how we communicate and know what he does want and what he doesn't.
A new novel from the University of Minnesota Press features themes of self-determination and reclamation with a twist. This is Conor Kerr's second novel. Shirley Snavy has this interview.
It's a girl meets boy story that gets complicated. Gray, a young woman activist, meets up with Ezzy, who's trying to clean up his act after prison. They steal a herd of bison and set them free in a city park.
There was I remember a news story maybe a decade ago now out of Camrose, Alberta, where a bison herd had got loose from a neighboring farm and was stampeding through the city of Camrose. And I thought, what a funny thing, to like see, like for the people who are like up at like 4:30 or 5 a.m., beautiful summer morning, you're driving to work with your coffee, and here comes 50 bison cruising down Main Street right at you. And what that looks like, and so I kind of took that idea and thought about it for like, what would it really look like if there's all these bison that are in, a public park in the middle of Edmonton? What would it look like for the people who, have been using this park, and all of a sudden there's a herd of bison there? And as we know, like the bison are such a natural part of the landscape. They survive and thrive everywhere. So them coming back just seemed to be such a funny way of kind of like introducing this idea of like a new form of kind of, I guess, activism to claim land back.
Yeah, so instead of land back, it's bison back. So
yeah.
I think that's brilliant. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about is the two main characters in the story, a young lady and a troubled young man.
I would say that Gray, the young lady, the Métis lady, who's kind of the lead activist there and runs these organizations and these protest movements, is really a composite character of a lot of people that I know who do incredible work behind the scenes to really give pride to Indigenous voice, to really lead activist movements, to lead movements towards Indigenous-owned solutions for climate change, for a better future for youth when it comes to education, for cultural knowledge. And there's all these incredible people that I know who are doing such good work behind the scenes, and they don't want any praise, they don't want any publicity, they don't want anything like that. And they're constantly just working to create a better future for Indigenous people. And then I guess there's a third kind of character in here, this Tyler guy who kind of comes in and starts taking credit for a lot of these movements that are happening and tries to almost build a brand based around like the activism that's going on. And I really wanted to kind of play onto what that looks like for people who are trying to almost like get rich or build a brand based around, being their idea of activism.
The young male character who's getting out of prison.
So Ezzy, yeah, he's kind of modeled on this idea of a lot of young Indigenous men who just don't really have that sense of purpose or direction in this current like Western capitalist society that we're living in, where they've been ostracized by growing up through these foster care systems and group homes, and which are really just a pathway directly into often the carceral system, jail, and they're never really given a hope or an opportunity. And so like if you're looking at Ez as a character, he's often just waiting, like he's just waiting constantly for something to happen. And he doesn't know how to really like take initiative, and he doesn't really want to take initiative either. And so when he gets an opportunity to really fall into something that he believes in, where he can learn more about his community, his culture, his history, what it means to be Indigenous to those lands and those areas, he falls right in line with it and really wants to help Gray because he wants to believe in something, to belong to something. And it's what kind of fits for it, and what allows him to eventually, you know, kind of like make his own versions of sacrifices, whether Gray wants him to or not, towards this larger kind of movement.
I really have to comment about your commentary on the foster care system. I know you're in Canada and we're down here in the United States, but it's a mirror story.
Oh, absolutely. I was fortunate to be in Navajo territory not that long ago and chatting with some people down there around, you know, just a similar type experiences with these government systems that are put in place on Indigenous peoples, and what it actually looks like for us to take back control over our own forms of governance, whether that comes to education, whether it comes to raising our own children, whether it comes to like making sure that we're, you know, that really at the end of the day, that the kids know themselves and know what it means to be Indigenous. And I honestly think within writing a lot of the books and the books that I've written, as well as this Prairie Edge here, I would love for young, you know, Indigenous people to be able to see themselves reflected in these books within the characters, and to see that's all right to learn about culture, to learn about history, and that they're not alone in what they're often feeling when they're, you know, coming up against these systems on a regular basis.
Prairie Edge by Conor Kerr will be released June 4th by the University of Minnesota Press. Shirley Snavy, ICT News.
Languages are among our most valued resources. Ensuring that they are preserved and taught is important in Indigenous communities and here at ICT. Today, we're continuing our Language Break segment, which features Native speakers from across Turtle Island, sharing their beautiful and bold words and phrases. This week, we bring you the Hawaiian language from Kumukau'i Peralto and music from Kalani Pea.
He ali'i ka aina he kawa ke kanaka. He ali'i ka aina he kawa ke kanaka. The land is chief, man is her servant. He ali'i ka aina he kawa ke kanaka. Our land is both a responsibility and a privilege.
In Phoenix, Arizona, a Navajo man is bottling up the heat. Michael John is the founder of Navajo Mike's Southwestern-style barbecue sauce. It's featured in Tokabe Indigenous Marketplace. Take a look.
My name is Michael John, and I am the owner and founder of Navajo Mike's. I think I was 14, picked up a job at my buddy's dad's restaurant as a dishwasher. You know, I bugged him forever. I needed a job, just wanted to be in it. It wasn't me personally being like, I want to be a chef or anything. I just, wanted a job, and I just kind of embraced it and slowly learned, to cook. And then he was like, let's put you on the line now, and started taking that in, and then eventually going to a different restaurant and just start growing as someone that can cook all these foods, and just, kind of fell into it. And I, started loving it and just embracing the whole culture of it. And just took it by storm. And just, next thing I know, I get management positions, a sous chef job, and then, head chef, and then became an executive chef. So it just snowballed. And now, I just, 15 years later, here I am. The AIC reached out to me and were like, hey, we like your product. It's an Indigenous product. We want you to check out our company. And we have this seal that shows that you're a certified, authentic, made, produced by American Indians. And I was like, I didn't even know that was a thing. And so I was like, so they see this and like, they're noticing me. I'm like, who else is gonna, like, okay, this is something. This is, someone's looking at me. So I was just like, okay, I gotta take it more seriously. So Yeah, that's where it started, man. That's where I liked it. The native marketplace means, I think, big opportunity for everyone, any Indigenous brand. I mean, I think it's just a stepping stone to what something great that will happen very soon and continue to grow. And I'm very appreciative of, giving us the opportunity to sell in their marketplace. And I see it becoming something great, and I'm very appreciative and thankful to have it. My whole thing, I hope within the next 2-3 years I can start hiring people, and I definitely want to keep it local and reach out to any one that wants to partner with us and have Indigenous people come and help out, stuff like that. Being Navajo, it's just being proud of where you come from, your heritage and the culture, and especially the people in the community. The community is we're very focused on our community here.
And that's a slice of our Indigenous world. For all the latest, visit us at ictnews.org. From all of us in the newsroom, stay safe, my relatives.
This program is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, a private corporation funded by the American people.